So I just, God bless me to not be the wrong place at the right time.
You were lucky that night.
Yeah, I was lucky.
All right. The purpose of this meeting is to discuss what the Commissioners Court is proposing as a maximum tax increase on the county taxes, which would be at the rate of 0.55300 cents per $100 of valuation. I'd like to go through some talking points on that. One of the first things I want to say is, after we've had this hearings, we already have the budget done, we have the hearings, and over time people say, well, if you have all that done, are you really going to listen to us? So we don't have the budget done this time. We have some amounts that will be brought in by revenue. We have some plans in that. But before we go to that, we want to get feedback so we wouldn't have something completely set. We have given departments guidance on what we believe will be done for salaries. Gives them a great deal of latitude. For the first time we've ever done it this way, where they determine the salary increases based on the percentage of their salary rate. The increase this year in taxes will be 2.2 cents over the last 2 years. I'm sorry, over the last 2 years, we've actually reduced taxes by 2.2 cents. If you look at the chart that's up on there, you can see if we have copies, for those of you who don't have X-ray vision, Commissioner Watts did an interesting study of the information and looked at the last 10 years of taxation. And over that 10 years, we have stayed in that average at 1.99%. If you take the ups and the downs of the taxes that have been assessed, over the inflation rate. Employees have not had a pay raise in the last 3 years. We go into a 4th year, and one of the major considerations going into this budget was to allow up to 2 cents for that increase, which equates roughly to a little over 4% across the board. We did some adjusting of individual salaries by classification in departments to try to make it more even with people doing similar jobs in different offices. There was disparity in pay, and so we've done leveling within those offices, and those are outside of where the department head. The department heads are all aware, and have been one department head come and say, I don't want to do that. Now, the other thing is the department head has a choice for anyone that gets a raise. If they're not ready to give them that money, then they don't sign off on that for the person who received that raise in 2016. That's under their control. But it does establish the maximum salary for each position. I've had a couple people say, well, what happened that caused this? One of the things that had us look at this money, we have had more calls on our reserves this past year. One of those calls will be in the neighborhood of somewhere between 300,000, possibly as high as 500,000 to do corrections and upgrades in the jail, which was payment of labor, materials, and additional staffing in order to make sure we maintain the investment that we're putting in to bring the jail up to standards. I say, somebody said, well, who let that happen? Well, a combination of things let that happen. But the job is to correct it and make sure we are saying we didn't get our jail closed. We simply got to load up these areas and we're told to correct it. The sheriff and Commissioner Harvey and Commissioner Maher have been the principal key officials involved in that, and they are tracking these expenses. Right now, we're at right around $100,000 in expense. But by the time we finish a couple of major construction things that have to be done, we could be going on up to that 300 or above in that expense. Next thing is we have not received any money on the flood. We had a meeting with the state last week. We have a meeting sometime rescheduled with FEMA to determine how much they're going to reimburse and what percentage, but there's no way you recover the 80%. They don't pay you for materials and time you had during the regular work week. Now, when we go back and submit projects, we will be able to get reimbursement on that. But during the time of the flood, when we devoted everything to that, the first 40 hours, right on the county, the overtime, you'll get a partial reimbursement on that. One of the things we don't want to deplete reserves on, we are looking at eventually a building of a justice center. And you think, well, why did you just call it a jail? Well, actually legal counsel in a meeting one day called it that. And that's what they call in others, because one of the things we have a project to look at, if you've been to our courtrooms, you realize they have been around a long time. What you see on television and other places, courtrooms have become further IT oriented, the electronic presentations, the presentation of evidence, the things submitted. We might be in the 20th century of that, but we're not into the second decade of the 21st century. What we hope to do is build new courtrooms there, have them set up electronically, provide more security for the personnel in those courtrooms, not only staff, judges, but the people that come in those courtrooms. So that building, ideally, if we have two options. One is out at Sprague, the other is downtown here. We've had the studies done, we've talked to the owners of the property. We're going to listen to a feasibility report from the architects. We want to be in good financial shape and have the reserves that are appropriate to get the best bond rating we can get if we have to sell bonds to build that facility. The next thing is the 5.4 cents raise in the taxes actually equates to $54 a year for $100,000 valuation on your home. The average home value in Wichita County is right around $100,000. So that's what someone would see. If you say, wait a minute, I'm over 65, I'm on a fixed income, you can defer your taxes. You don't have to pay. You will be charged an interest rate for no penalty. You set that up through the tax office, and you can defer those on your homes. This change in the rate over this, from the time in 2011, we were actually near this rate at 53.45, which is what we're going to now is less than 2 cents above that. So we try to look at each year the San Antonio zone, and if we should reduce the tax rate, we reduce the tax rate. If we need to go up, we explain to you the reason we think we need to go up. And this year, we're asking you to do these things so that we maintain the financial solvency we have, reward our employees for your hard work, renovation. Some of this expense, new expense, is going to go for upgrading technology. We are looking at new courts software system that will cost about $2 million. We need to do that to catch up with the e-filing, the open electronic case management files they have to be for. Right now, for criminal cases, we're moving to electronic filing on civil cases within the next 2 years. All counties in Texas should be having total electronic filing. So we have to provide the equipment and the personnel to do that. At this point, I'd ask commissioners if you all have any additional comments you want to make on public comments.
I know I'd add, Judge, this is an ongoing, long-term project. We've been working on this thing for several months. A lot of debate, a lot of discussion, a lot of different ideas, and we're not through yet. We've got more work to do. But this is not something that just happens overnight, that we just come in and willy-nilly one day say, well, we're going to raise the taxes by X number of dollars. We literally go through line by line, look at every item, and it is a very long and tedious process. But in doing that, we learn a whole lot more about county government and how things operate and what it actually costs to do some of the things, some that are mandated, others that we think we need to do for the taxpayers of Wichita County.
And a lot of this increase is based on the recommendations and requests from elected officials to properly compensate their personnel. We will, right now, we schedule health insurance is going to go up about 5.4% on the rates we have. That's really one of the more favorable rates through our Texas Association of Counties. I did visit with them last week, talked about some things they might do to modify that to give us better rates, and especially looking at what we can do to help our employees who pay dependent coverage. And all employees who have dependent coverage either pay a portion of that based on when their employment was, or they pay all of it if they came after 2001. So that's one of the technology, jail costs, flood costs, and trying to appropriately compensate and maintain good personnel balance. Anyone in the audience have anything? If you do wish to speak, we want to hear you, but I'd ask that you come forward to one of the microphones, give your name, and then go ahead and make your comments, and we'll do our best to answer.
I think you know who I am. I'm Donna Long.
Order. Thank you, there we go. Ms. Long.
And I have a couple of questions. Where is the jail on this budget?
It's not on there. The new jail?
No, not the new jail,
No.
the jail expenses now.
Well,
It's on a totally different report.
that's giving you that's looking at 2016.
Okay, you can tell I haven't studied your budget before.
And that's the summary budget, so it wouldn't give you that detail.
Okay. But you have expenses going to the present jail
Yes, ma'am.
that are fairly high. And I know,
Unbudgeted.
yeah, and I am aware that a lot of those expenses are mandated expenses by the state. This may sound like a simple question, but what happens if you don't comply with all of those mandates? For instance, let me just give an example. I think one of the mandates is that you must keep the air temperature at a certain minimum or maximum. What happens if you are 2 degrees off or 5 degrees off and you don't comply with the state?
As long as we're showing corrective action, Sheriff, help me out here, but as long as we're showing corrective action.
Wait, Judge, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
What people understand, we don't put the thermostat on like 64 degrees, let them freeze to death. It has to be between a range, and Chief Mayor, make sure I'm saying the right degrees. It's from, I think, 65 to 85 degrees. And so you got an average temperature, depending on what, both facilities, you got multiple different AC units, and that's one of the things that we're working through right now with the commissioners to take care of all the ones we have, the existing ones that's been there for years, to get them either replaced or repaired to where they're running at its best efficiency. So you may have a lot of times it's probably in the everywhere from 74 to average 74 degree range.
But-
actually.
You know, you can save a lot of money by having your temperature either higher in the summer or lower in the winter. What happens if you have your temperature set at 90 degrees in the summer?
In the
I
jail.
mean, and you're not complying with the state. My question is, what happens if you're not complying with the state mandate?
The jail commission can come in and sanction the county, and they can actually close the jail.
What do they do?
Well, there's a lot of things they can do. They can come in and do an inspection. If you fail inspection, which if the county refuses to do it, they can file a suit against the county, order us to close the jail. But to go to what you're talking about, like say put on 90 degrees,
What?
it's not like our house air conditioner where you got one
Right.
unit. There's multiple units.
Right.
So you may have 90 degrees in one area. If you have inmates that are sick in that area, obviously you have 90 degree temperature in there, the sicker they're going to be. And there's so many variables in there. That's why it's a big big,
Simple question, if the state closes the jail, think of the
Okay.
money we'd save.
oh, no, you won't. Oh, no, you won't. No, there's no free get out of jail free card with inmates in this county. You would have to ship out about 530 inmates today alone to different counties that can accommodate them at about $50 to $60 a day per inmate. That's not including cost with transporting with our personnel, our transportation of vehicles and fuel
But
continually.
my question is how does the state make you comply with all these different regulations? What are their choices? Does it cost us more money in the long run with fines, or,
Remediation, but they'll go through
Or-
processes against the county. And it's just like with the repairs we're doing right now.
I mean, who is lobbying the state to change some of these regulations?
We
'Cause
should
some
be
of them are a
on
little
a,
bit ridiculous.
and we discussed that too. It's our job to continue to pound that out, because I think all of us would be very much in support of everything you say, because it just,
Well, I'm just
Right.
picking on one.
oh yeah.
One little
But
thing,
it's the
but-
sorest thumb for me at all to know
It-
that we
It
spend
has
this kind
to
of money.
be seen across the board that this is a hardship on all counties in the state.
Oh,
And you
absolutely.
can't just keep raising taxes on people. Eventually, everyone's gonna be on welfare.
But one of the things, though, Donna, is what happens is if we raise that temperature to 90 degrees, you're going to have 100 inmates that'll file a lawsuit for civil rights violations against the county,
Yeah,
and that's going to cost the county a whole lot more than it is worth paying the electric
yeah,
bill.
I understand that
Ms.
there
Long,
will be lawsuits.
I did some quick
but-
numbers while you were talking. We have 530 people in jail today. If we ship those people out, pay an average of $55 a day, it would cost us $903,000 per month to house our inmates.
Okay.
Now, we are required by
To send them.
statute to have a county jail.
Okay, then who is lobbying the state to
Nobody.
change some of these?
Well,
Well, our
there's
association-
very actively lobbying the state to change that in meetings with the jail officials. We've been to the Texas Jail Commission, met with them. The Texas Association of Counties lobbies, for that
They
tremendously.
provide information.
Well, good point.
I've been to
But,
court over that, so.
But we do have, yeah, you gotta be careful of your legal deal, but we do actively lobby for.
I mean, do you need help lobbying the state?
Absolutely.
But you need to, part of this isn't under the control of the state. You have a federal lawsuit,
Right.
Ruiz.
Ruiz, 83?
Well, I mean, Ruiz applied to the state jail system, but the federal judges can come in and take over a jail and mandate.
Yeah, and that was Judge Justice that set up all of this.
But,
And you've got the difference, everybody says, why don't y'all put them in tents and pink underwear?
Yeah,
Like in
not
Arizona.
Arizona.
The
Could,
people
yeah,
that
for
we
sure.
have in jail, for the most part, are innocent until proven guilty. It's a different set of standards.
Right,
of
I
treatment.
understand that.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we have to follow those standards. You go out to all red, it's not air conditioned. That's post adjudication.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
So
There's the
Air
difference.
conditioning is one thing that I picked out of my hat, but there are lots of regulations that could be changed that might save money in every county,
You're right.
not just here.
I agree.
I
agree.
I have trouble with tax increases because
We do too.
they're, and I understand that you're sort of between a rock and a hard place, because of, mainly because of mandates from the state. There may be some other ways of saving some money that I'm unaware of. I think you're finding some of them now, but, and hopefully you'll find more. I can't say cut salaries because people have to be able to pay their taxes, right?
Well, the people that work for this county, they're more worried about keeping their electric bill paid. They're not
Right.
saving any money. They're probably this far from poverty level.
I'm
in
surprised there
this
aren't
state.
more people
Yeah.
here objecting, but I think the only excuse that there aren't more people here to speak against a tax increase is they didn't know this hearing was going on.
They don't read the paper or.
Well, that maybe they can't afford the paper.
It's on television. It was on
Maybe
last
they
3
can't
nights.
afford television.
You know, most people that can't afford the paper, can't afford television, don't pay any taxes.
Okay.
Keep that in
Now,
mind.
I have another question.
Yes, ma'am.
Does this increase include pay raises to the elected officials?
Yes, ma'am.
Of what?
4%.
4%? Didn't you just get a 5% 2 years ago?
No, ma'am.
I know I didn't.
Well, you weren't a commissioner.
The elected officials do not take a raise until employees have a raise.
The elected officials.
In 26 years, Donna, there's never been a time the elected officials got a raise that the employees didn't.
Well, a couple of years ago, I came to a hearing where you all got, the commissioners got,
That was, you're referring to that $200 across the board
yeah,
raise that we gave to everybody.
yeah,
Everybody.
yeah.
But that was 3 years ago.
Was it 3 years ago? Well, that amounted to roughly a 5%. in
But
my-
we had been several years before that. It's very seldom that you'll find that there's pay raises every year in a row. It doesn't happen that way.
Commissioner Watts, would you explain to Donna about the 1.92%, the index?
Donna, we took a look at our spread over the past 10 years, and you know the Department of Labor puts together a consumer price index that indicates a basket of goods, what keeps that whole as far as owning a dollar in your pocket in 2005 and carrying it all the way to 2015. What do you need to add to it to still be able to buy that same basket of goods? And the Department of Labor determines that over that past 10 years for our region, we had to add just under a quarter or 23 cents to keep that dollar whole. And our county, from that's in that same time frame, has only been able to add 19 cents to that dollar to keep us whole. So it's eroding our fund balance to some extent in order to try to keep our bills paid and to keep us true to where we were in 2005 as far as what a dollar's value was worth.
Yeah.
So we're still behind the curve, and I'm taking into account this increase. So it still throws us behind the 8 ball
Right.
as far as keeping that dollar whole.
But this is for all elected officials as well as other county employees.
All
Right.
county employees.
Yes, and
It's been budgeted for.
but but there is some, it's not all exactly that, but there, for the most part it is.
Yeah,
And
I
I think
think
your question is a good one, and it's one that we all struggle with as elected officials, because first of all of us sitting at this panel up here are taxpayers. In fact, most of us are pretty big taxpayers, and this thing is gonna hit us pretty hard. We're fortunate enough to own some property, and that's a good thing, but I don't know, what's the answer to that deal? I mean, should elected officials never get a pay raise? Should it be the same as it was in 1960 or 1970? I mean, that's a tough question, because for those of us that are elected officials, it's our full-time job. It's what we do for a living. And, you know, if you don't stay up with inflation, first of all, there'll be people that'll follow us in these offices at some time. And I think you want that salary level to be at a point where you're gonna have the right kind of people run for that office. You know, every elected official has to run for office every 4 years, and that's not an inexpensive thing to do.
Yeah,
it's-
I
you know,
can
so-
understand your argument, believe me, I
I know
understand
you do
your
as well as
argument.
anybody. But I guess my question is, how do you handle that? I mean, do you just never do it, or do you do it in small increments along with the cost of inflation? And I'm asking you because we struggle with that. We really do.
Well,
Barry's asked me that question several times. What is the answer? I really don't know what the answer is.
I guess I'm speaking for all the people that can't vote to raise their own income, because there are plenty of those in this community. And being a staunch Republican, I'd have to say I'm opposed to tax increases. And I think the majority of you call yourselves Republican, and I hope you can see my point from that standpoint, that tax increases right now are not the way to go. But again, I can understand you're between a rock and a hard place with what is mandated to pay for. So, that's just my opinion. Okay.
I would guess to say that you'd be standing at that mic right there. If we were the other way, and we were going rogue, and we were on the news just like Vernon was not too long ago, you'd be standing at that mic as a business person saying, what in the world have you people been doing up here? Haven't you been taking care of business? You'd be right there at that mic uttering those words too, wouldn't you? So I
don't
agree.
know.
I agree.
I don't
But
know.
what we're doing is we're taking care of business.
Okay.
You know,
I pay
Commissioner,
taxes like, we're not exempt from paying taxes. Here's what it's gonna cost me as a tax assessor or collector, show me what this tax increase is gonna do to me. It's gonna cost me. But you know what? I'm gonna pay it because I know we need it.
Well, you're increasing your salary so you can pay it.
Can I increase my salary by this
Sorry.
much? If I can increase my salary by this much, I'm gonna vote for that every time.
I wish mine was going up as much as the tax bill was. but it's
Donna,
not.
I had one more thing just to say, and this it just killed me, but Monday afternoon, we had to assess our water rates for Wichita Valley Water. It comes around every year with what the city of Wichita Falls does to us. I've served on that board. That was one of the first boards I was ever on back in '85. And when water was $1 to $1.25 per thousand, we set the rate Monday of $8.50 per thousand for water, and I'm just like, I mean,
Those water bills used to be about $15.
oh my
I mean,
heavens,
that's what they
I
were.
couldn't believe it.
Now,
You know, I think Mr. Harvey brought up a good point. This is something we all need to keep in our mind. Something that caught my attention this week is the fact that they had a pretty major house fire in Vernon, Texas. And I think we all know what Vernon has struggled with and some real financial problems over there. They had a very dangerous situation because they did not have enough firemen to fight that fire. And they had some guys that came down with heat exhaustion because they were understaffed, because they've had so many budget cuts over there. It gets to be a safety situation, and you get to where you can't do business for the taxpayers. And I think that's something that we really need to pay attention. And our heart goes out to those guys because we know they're struggling. But we need to manage this business where we can keep it viable and keep it safe. And I think it's important to sheriff do. I think it's important to everybody that's in one of those situations in Wichita County. We don't ever want to forget that.
But I'll speak to that too. We have a mindset now that if there's something that happens to us, government has to take care of it. Now, I don't believe that. I think there are disasters that happen that government should stay out of. And it's not up to government to solve everything. I mean, I'm sure you hear this all the time on television, but don't get carried away with trying to solve everybody's problem. You'll tax everybody to death.
well, if you were here during the hearings, we get all kinds of requests for money.
Yeah.
And we
Oh, I
don't
know,
understand.
I know.
And because I don't think we can, we had a lady come in and visited with, three of us over why she thinks we need to reinstate a position as a state position that we help fund. And we finally just had to say, you know, that's really the state's job. We're already doing something I'm rather opposed to, but it came in a long time ago, and the state just expects more and more funding from us and less from them, and then they tell you they gave you a tax cut.
We'll have to join hands and do some lobbying against the state then.
Well, you know,
Okay,
it's,
thank you.
yes, ma'am, thank you for being here. Anyone else? We do appreciate your all's attendance tonight. We will have another public hearing on this tax rate at 10 o'clock on Monday morning. Then we'll follow with the commissioners' regular meeting. We'll have that public hearing on the tax rate. Thanks again. It's 6:31 and we're adjourned.